Okay, buckle up, because I'm about to tell you a story that still makes my blood run cold. It's a story about family, trust, and the most devastating betrayal imaginable. My own sister, my own mother, conspired behind my back to steal from me, to ruin my life, and to destroy the one thing I held most precious. Was I wrong for the way I reacted? Tell me, after you hear everything, would you have done the same? It all started innocently enough, or so I thought. My name is Alex, and I've always been the steady, responsible one in my family. My sister, Chloe, was the free spirit, always chasing dreams that never quite materialized, always needing a little help. And my mother, well, she was a classic enabler, forever bailing Chloe out, making excuses for her, and smoothing over her endless mistakes. I loved them, truly I did, despite their flaws. I just always wished they could stand on their own 2 feet, especially Chloe. She was 2 years younger than me, and while I'd gone to college, worked hard, and built a stable career in finance, Chloe had bounced from one short-lived venture to another. A photography business that never got off the ground, an online boutique that tanked, a brief stint as a yoga instructor that ended when she decided it was too much effort. Each time, it was my mom who stepped in, and often it was me, lending an ear, offering advice, and sometimes even a little financial support, though I always tried to be firm about loans, not handouts. My life took a significant turn about 5 years ago when my grandmother, my mother's mother, passed away. Grandma Alina was an incredible woman, strong, independent, and incredibly shrewd. She had built a small empire of antique furniture and art, and she lived a comfortable life. When her will was read, it was quite a surprise. She left a substantial sum of money, a beautiful cottage by the lake, and her entire antique collection to me. Not to my mother, not to Chloe, but to me. The will stated that I was the one who had shown the most responsibility and care for her in her later years, and she trusted me to use her legacy wisely. She also stipulated that the money was to be invested, and the cottage was to be kept in the family, not sold. My mother received a smaller, yet still significant, sum, and Chloe received a nominal amount, along with some of Grandma's less valuable trinkets. You can imagine the immediate tension. My mother was outwardly gracious, but I could sense a subtle resentment. Chloe, on the other hand, was furious. She accused Grandma of favoritism, of not understanding her artistic spirit, and of essentially setting her up for failure. I tried to explain that Grandma loved her, but she had a specific vision for her assets. I offered to help Chloe manage her small inheritance, even suggesting she could use the cottage for a retreat if she ever needed a quiet place to work on her art. I truly wanted to share, to alleviate the sting of her disappointment, but Chloe just scoffed, saying I was just rubbing it in. I took Grandma's instructions seriously. I invested the money wisely, and it grew steadily. The cottage, a charming 2-bedroom place with a stunning view of Lake Willow, became my sanctuary. I spent weekends there, restoring it, painting, and just enjoying the peace. I never forgot my promise to Grandma to keep it in the family. I even had a separate bank account set up for the cottage's upkeep and taxes, funded by a portion of the investment returns. This was a detail that would later become crucial. A few years passed. Chloe continued her cycle of failed ventures and financial struggles. My mother, bless her heart, was always trying to mediate, always trying to get me to help Chloe more. I did in various ways, offering job contacts, helping her create a resume, even once paying for a certification course she swore would change her life. It didn't. Each time I felt a growing frustration, but I never gave up on her. She was my sister. Then came the big opportunity. My company decided to open a new branch overseas, and they offered me a position as a senior manager. It was a huge promotion, a dream come true, but it meant moving to Geneva for at least 2 years. I was ecstatic, but also a little nervous about leaving everything behind. The cottage, especially, weighed on my mind. I couldn't bear to leave it empty for 2 years, and selling it was out of the question, per Grandma's will. My mother, upon hearing my dilemma, immediately suggested Chloe could live in the cottage while I was away. "She needs a place, Alex," she'd said, "and it would be perfect for her. She can look after it, keep it warm, and you wouldn't have to worry about it being empty." I hesitated. Chloe wasn't exactly known for her responsibility, but the idea had a certain appeal. It would keep the cottage occupied and looked after, and it would give Chloe a stable place to live, hopefully inspiring her to get her act together. I brought it up with Chloe. She was surprisingly enthusiastic. She promised she would treat it like her own, pay the utilities, and even help with minor repairs. My mother vouched for her, promising to keep an eye on things. Against my better judgment, driven by a desire to help my sister and to honor Grandma's memory, I agreed. We drew up a simple agreement, not a formal lease, but an understanding. Chloe would pay for utilities, and I would cover the property taxes and insurance as I always had. I gave her a debit card linked to the cottage's dedicated bank account, explaining it was only for cottage-related expenses, any maintenance, repairs, or unexpected costs that came up. I emphasized that this was my fund, separate from her living expenses. She swore she understood. My mother was present during this conversation, nodding along, reinforcing the terms. "It's a huge gift, Chloe," she'd said. "Don't mess it up." I left for Geneva with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. For the first few months, everything seemed fine. Chloe sent me occasional photos of the cottage, looking cozy and lived in. She called, sounding happier than I'd heard her in years. My mother gave me glowing reports, saying Chloe was really settling in. I felt a sense of relief, thinking I'd finally found a way to help my sister, and she was actually rising to the occasion. Then the red flags started. First, a small charge for a new pair of shoes on the cottage debit card. I called Chloe, gently reminding her that the card was for the cottage only. She apologized profusely, claiming it was an honest mistake and she'd repay me. She never did. A few weeks later, another charge, this time for a fancy dinner. Again, the same apology, the same promise to repay. I started checking the statements more regularly. The charges weren't huge individually, but they were adding up. Clothing, restaurant meals, spa treatments, things that clearly had nothing to do with the cottage. I confronted my mother, who waved it off. "Oh, Alex, she's just a little stressed. She'll pay you back. You know how she is with money." I tried to talk to Chloe again, more firmly this time. Her tone shifted. She became defensive, accusing me of nickel and dimming her, saying I was rich and she was struggling, and what was a few $100s to me anyway. The arguments grew more frequent and more heated. I felt a knot forming in my stomach. This wasn't just about the money. It was about the blatant disregard for our agreement, for my trust, and for Grandma's legacy. Then came the bigger shock. I received a notice from the property tax office. The annual tax payment was significantly overdue. I checked my bank statements. The transfer from the cottage account to the tax office had been initiated, but then reversed asterisk. I called the bank in a panic. They informed me that the person who had initiated the transfer, Chloe, had called back hours later and canceled it, transferring the money, almost the entire balance of the cottage account, to an external account. An external account that wasn't mine. It was Chloe's personal account. She had emptied the cottage fund. She had stolen the money meant for Grandma's home. My blood ran cold. This wasn't a mistake or a few $100s. This was thousands of dollars, money intended to protect and maintain a cherished family asset gone. And the property taxes were now severely delinquent, threatening late fees and even potential liens. I immediately called my mother. I was shaking, furious, and on the verge of tears. I told her everything. Her response was not what I expected. "Oh, Alex," she sighed. "I know, Chloe told me. She just needed the money for an emergency." An emergency? What emergency required emptying an account meant for property taxes and then not even telling me? And why hadn't my mother told me? That's when the full weight of the betrayal hit me. My mother knew. She knew my sister had taken the money and she had kept it from me. She had been covering for her just like she always did. But this time it was different. This wasn't a minor fib. This was active concealment of a theft, a betrayal of my trust on an epic scale. She was complicit. So that's the situation I was in, thousands of miles away, staring at a destroyed bank account and delinquent property taxes, knowing my own sister and mother had done this to me. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. How would you have reacted to such a profound betrayal from the people you loved most? I hung up on my mother, my mind a whirlwind of anger and hurt. I called Chloe. She answered, sounding surprisingly calm. "Chloe," I said, my voice trembling, "the property taxes, the money's gone." She immediately became defensive. "Look, Alex, I needed it. It was an emergency. I was going to pay you back." "What emergency?" I demanded. "And why didn't you tell me? Why did you cancel the tax payment? Do you have any idea how serious this is?" She started crying, telling me she had gotten into debt, that she needed money for a business opportunity that would change everything, and that she borrowed it with the intention of paying me back. She also admitted that she had been dipping into the account for months, covering her living expenses, which she was supposed to be paying herself. My mother had known about some asterisk of it, but Chloe claimed she hadn't told her about emptying the whole account. It was a tangled web of lies and half-truths, and frankly, I didn't believe a word of it. The business opportunity was almost certainly another one of her doomed ventures, fueled by my grandmother's legacy. The final straw came when she said, "It's just money, Alex, you have plenty. And it's Grandma's money anyway, so it should have been shared more fairly." That sentence, "it's just money," and the implication that she was entitled to Grandma's legacy because she felt it wasn't fair, snapped something inside me. It wasn't just money. It was Grandma's trust, my hard work, and the very foundation of my relationship with them. I knew in that moment that I couldn't just let this slide. This wasn't about forgiveness anymore. It was about justice, about drawing a line in the sand. I immediately contacted a lawyer back home. I explained the situation, provided all the bank statements, the emails, and the agreement we had. My lawyer was appalled. He informed me that what Chloe had done was outright theft and that my mother was complicit to an extent, though harder to prove. My first instruction to him was clear: get Chloe out of that cottage. Within days, a formal eviction notice was served. Chloe was furious. She called me, screaming, accusing me of being heartless, of throwing her out on the street. I told her she had brought it on herself. My mother also called, begging me to reconsider, saying I was tearing the family apart. "She's your sister, Alex. Where is she supposed to go?" I reminded her that Chloe had a choice. She could have kept her word, paid her own way, and not stolen from me. I told her that she, my mother, was just as much to blame for enabling this behavior. The conversation ended with my mother sobbing, and me, for the first time, feeling a cold, hard resolve instead of guilt. Chloe refused to leave. She barricaded herself in the cottage, changed the locks, and started posting dramatic, victim-blaming rants on social media, implying I was a cruel, rich sister throwing her out because I hated her. My lawyer advised me to go through the legal process, which was slow, expensive, and incredibly emotionally draining. But I was determined. I had the police involved, as the theft of funds and refusal to vacate constituted both civil and criminal issues. The day the sheriff finally arrived to forcibly remove Chloe was brutal. She put up a fight, screaming and crying as they escorted her out. My mother was there, standing with Chloe, giving me dirty looks, reinforcing the idea that I was the villain. It was a scene I will never forget. As Chloe was being led away, she looked at me with pure hatred in her eyes and hissed, "You'll regret this, Alex. You'll regret ruining your own family." The aftermath was devastating in its own way. I had to pay all the overdue property taxes, plus hefty late fees, dipping into my own personal savings. The cottage was a mess. Chloe had trashed it, leaving behind piles of garbage, broken furniture, and even some passive-aggressive notes scrawled on the walls. It took months and thousands of dollars to repair and restore it to its original condition. The legal fees were astronomical, but I pressed charges for the stolen money. It wasn't about getting the money back anymore. It was about making a point, about accountability. Chloe was eventually ordered to pay back the stolen funds, which she did in tiny, begrudging installments, always complaining about how I had ruined her life. She was also given a restraining order against me. My relationship with my mother shattered. She chose Chloe, continually blaming me for destroying the family and refusing to acknowledge Chloe's culpability. We haven't spoken in over a year. It hurts deeply. I lost my sister, I lost my mother, and a part of me, the part that believed in unconditional family love, died that day. But I also gained something. I gained clarity. I learned that trust, once broken, is incredibly difficult to repair, especially when there's no remorse. I learned that sometimes protecting yourself and what you cherish means making incredibly hard decisions, even if it means alienating those you love. Grandma's cottage is now truly my sanctuary again. I've installed a sophisticated security system, and I don't let anyone but a very select few close friends even know how to access it. It's a bittersweet victory, built on the ashes of what I once thought was an unbreakable bond. So that's my story. It's It's a painful one, but one I felt compelled to share. I trusted my family with everything, and they betrayed me in the worst way imaginable. If you've ever experienced something similar, or if you just have strong thoughts on what I did, please let me know. Like this video if you were on my side, subscribe for more stories like this, and share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section below. I'll see you all in the next story.